So today we have a different vlog to offer. I actually got to the park thinking that I was just going to be shooting getting to the park today, but because it's so slow, I'm actually going to be reviewing every single coaster at Canada's Wonderland. So join me while we ride every coaster in Wonderland, and I share my thoughts on them over the years. Hello. Just yesterday I was at Marineland and I was talking with a coaster enthusiast from Orlando, and this was his least favorite ride in Wonderland. This is actually one of the best, as far as I'm concerned. It's the best wooden coaster in Wonderland, and it has been for almost the entire time that it's been here, except for when Mindbuster predated Splashworks and its reprofiling, which used to be one of the best airtime machines in the park, now is anything but. Wildebeest has always been an unrelenting, rickety, rough ride. It is not for the faint of heart. The back seat is really rough, especially on that first drop. It actually jolts you so much that the lap bar sort of jabs you into the rib cage. Not a pleasant sensation. Be prepared for that if you're not ready for it, because yeah, it's happened every time that I've ridden it this year. But to be honest with you, I just like this ride. I like wood coasters that are just like unrepentant about how rough they are. Sometimes it's just not a good, pleasant experience because the actual features on the ride aren't that great. Wildebeest has tons of airtime. The profiling of the track, it's a classic design. It has had a bit of love over the years. It actually just got some train retrofits and some new improvements this year. So obviously the park thinks the same way that I do, that is an important coaster for the park. It's not going anywhere, despite what people think. It is a good ride for what it is. It's not a world-class wood coaster, but it's not one of the worst wood coasters in the world, despite what many people would say. If you don't like any roughness in your ride, you're going to think that, but as far as I'm concerned, still one of the best coasters in this park. the Bat. Okay, so the Bat was basically the first ever addition to Wonderland that I was excited about. Many years, for like the 10 years after it debuted, it always had like an hour lineup for many, many years. And now obviously it's not the case because it's a walk-on, but today everything is a walk-on anyway. I'm going to now hopefully ride it, but if this large group is going to ride it, then I'm going to move on to the next coaster. But it looks like they're more preoccupied with the otter or hedgehog that's in the actually I've seen on every trip that I've been here. So we're gonna go on the Bat, and I'm gonna review it, but there's really no point because everybody knows what a Vekoma boomerang is about, and this is one of the rougher ones. I haven't been in the front yet, so hopefully I'll get a seat on that now. Despite my feelings about the Wildebeest, this ride is still very rough as I expressed, but it's not as enjoyable for me. I don't know, maybe it's the replete amount or the abundance of Vekoma boomerangs out there that just does not make this experience as unique as, say, being on Wildebeest. I'm in the wrong line. Back in the right line. I will say, however, that the logo for this ride is the best in the park. I love the logo. If they would do a retro shirt of the Bat logo, I would buy it today. Time when I was a kid, as I mentioned, when this ride opened, that I was desperate to get that position at the very front of the line when they actually let everybody in, so that way I could definitely get a back seat ride. That is not something that I care about today because this ride is just not worth it. I would never ride this ride twice in the day. It's boring. It is what it is. Even in the back, I did get my front seat ride. Even in the back, it's really just like the tamest sort of pedestrian experience you can get in this park. So, you know, Wonderland is not really about the key top-notch thrills. Not much head rattle on it this time though, so I'm going to give it a little bit of a point for being smoother than I expected. It might be the conditions that have helped, but when it comes to the Bat, if you're going to have to pass up on certain rides and you don't have enough time, and this is definitely one of them that you should pass up, because yeah, it was a marquee attraction here for a long time, but times have definitely changed here at Wonderland over the years. By far the biggest challenge of my day is the family coaster credits. For one, Planet Snoopy or Camp Snoopy is not busy. It is a school day still, so it makes sense, but we still have some action going on here with characters. There's one ride, Taxi Jam, here that they don't allow adults to ride, so I'm gonna try to get on there, but it may take some convincing. I also was curious about Boo Blasters. As a previous vlog, it broke down, and so I actually got a tour of the ride with the lights on, which was kind of cool. So I'm actually going to go on it now. I'm going on a slight aside just to try it out. Hopefully it doesn't break down because I have 4 hours to get the rest of the coasters in today, which I definitely will, given that everyone's going to kind of head out of this park once it gets close to game time for the Raptors game. Okay, so we're getting a bit of a deluge here now, which is was expected. I'm in the coaster section of the park, so I'm just gonna go for it. I'm gonna get a wet ride. This is one of my favorite coasters as well in the park. Obviously, it's the first one I ever did in the park's opening day back in 1981. Well, opening year. I was not here opening day, but I was here opening year. So I've ridden this at its debut, and it's still pretty good. It is what it is. There are many clones of it at other original Taft parks like Carowinds and Kings Island and Kings Dominion. But yeah, it's a solid roller coaster, and I'm gonna give you a slight review of it afterwards. But you can pretty much guess what it's all about. It's Philadelphia Toboggan Company ride. It's really a clone almost of Wildebeest as well. I used to call it the knee cracker because since the trains are a little bit smaller, when you get in there, yeah, it definitely gives you a nice little sensation of your kneecaps being obliterated, and I'm sure that will be no different today. So yeah, I'm gonna get a front row ride I think today because I did it back earlier in the year, and it should be nice and wet. Well, despite my perseverance, we got thunder, so unfortunately I will not be able to ride the ride right coaster right now. I'm gonna come back later. Hopefully I can get in there. I'm starting to get some soaked feet as well, which is great times. But I do love coming to Wonderland when it's rainy, because especially in the midday rain, once it clears out, which is supposed to be at 5 o'clock, there's going to be 3 solid hours where there's probably going to be nobody in this park, because the city is gearing up for Game 6 of the NBA Final, and yeah, I don't think I'm going to see many people here in that final 3 hours, so yeah, let's hope so, and let's continue the journey to see if I can get on anything, because yeah, it's kind of wet, and with the thunder, I don't think they're going to be allowing any rides to go around. I haven't seen anything actually operating at this point. So we paused this vlog for what obviously is a shutdown on every ride, because when the rains came, they also brought thunder showers, or thunder and lightning with it. So all the rides currently in the park are not operating. Also, it looks like there's nobody here except, well, at Kidsville that I just actually passed through, there was still some parents and some kids persevering, but here, there's nobody. There's nobody here. Like, I can only see security. There's nobody even in the Yukon Striker station for waiting for the next train when it eventually starts up again, and it will. In fact, the rain is just now starting to die down a bit, so I'm gonna go and recharge my batteries, actually, and by the time that that's done, I'll be able to do the rest of the park probably almost as empty as I probably have ever seen it, which is gonna be a very cool experience. Alright, so a brief aside, as you just saw by that shot there, we have an exclusive beer for Yukon Striker. And if you get here in time to try it, it's by Great Lakes Brewery, which is actually one of my favorite craft breweries in Toronto, ironically enough. If you have the chance to try it, if you want one, it costs you $12.50, but if you want two, it's going to cost you $18. You can't get a better deal than that in Toronto. Like downtown Toronto itself. So yeah, that's a pretty cool deal. Love the can. They take the can back, so I don't know, maybe next time I'm here I might try to convince them to give me the can just as a souvenir. That would be a really cool souvenir to have, really exclusive. I'm gonna have to check the LCBO, which is Ontario's liquor distribution retail outlet, or the beer store, which is, as it sounds, to see if I can get a can of that, or even contact GLB to get a can. I'm pretty sure I'm going to do that, because I would definitely love a 6-pack of that just to keep. So we're at the next roller coaster, which is Flight Deck. Now I have a rant coming up about how we should stop tearing down some of our older steel coasters like Arrows. Yeah, there's a little gassiness there because I wasn't planning on having 2 beers, but I've got to get on with the day, so I kind of crushed them a bit quickly. So yeah, I'm gonna get a little bit more animated, I think, too, in this vlog. That being said, Flight Deck is next. Originally known as Top Gun, debuted in 1996. It is a much maligned coaster here at Wonderland, as it would be in any park that has an SLC, because you know how it is. It's just a rough ass ride and it's just not enjoyable. And I don't even really remember it being that enjoyable the year it came out, because I did ride it the first year it came out. It's not terrible. Like, SLCs are what they are. If you're prepared for them, you know what you're gonna get. So I don't really have much of a review coming about this ride, much like I didn't have for, say, the Bat. Although, that being said, I kind of ended up waxing poetic about that whole situation. Because there's nobody here, I'm just gonna go into the fast lane entrance. The rain has cleared, and there's nobody in this park right now, at least on this side. Not that anybody would be clamoring to come to Flight Deck, but at the same time, I don't think that there's going to be any non-walk-ons, even at Yukon Striker, for the rest of today. It's evident of like the sheer size of the queue line area for this ride, that at the time when it actually came out, it was a big deal. But now this is just a bunch of wasted space. I don't know if this area has been used in the last couple of years, because the draw for this ride isn't what it used to be. So here we go, walk on, front row ride onto Flight Deck.
Don't tell me walk on.
Came off of Flight Deck. It isn't that terrible of a ride. At the end of the day, I had my front row ride, which to be honest with you, I don't think I've done the front row on that coaster in a lot of years. It was always like in the history of this park, it's always been one of the longer lines is getting to the front row of that coaster. But that being said, it wasn't actually that rough, which is kind of shocking. It's also maybe because of the dampness of the track or something like that, but it ran for relatively smooth for what it was. It's an SLC, so at the end of the day, it's only going to be what it is, and you can ride that experience throughout the world. But now, we've come to the undisputed, I don't even know what to say, the undisputable best coaster in Wonderland, for pain, Time Warp. Thank God I only have to do this once, because yeah, it really is. Like, again, I made an argument earlier about the fact that this kind of ride needs to be retained, but at the same time, it's just a little bit too much. It is one of the only designs of this flying coaster that exists in North America, so it's unique for Wonderland. It's a unique ride, but at the same time, it's notorious for being one of the worst rides in North America. So, and it is. I can just tell you that right now. It is actually a terrible, terrible, terrible ride. It's awful. I'm gonna do it just for the sake of riding it, but at the end of the day, Time Warp, I really don't hope we see you here for much longer, because yeah, this needs to go. As does the SLC. Put in a Woody here, a nice twisty GCI Woody would be perfect for this park, at least in this particular area. It could fit in really well. It doesn't have to be huge. Just give us something that people can actually still enjoy. The queue lines are indication enough of what the people think about these particular coasters, and it's well documented by enthusiasts. So yeah, here we go. Time Warp. This ride was originally known as Tomb Raider when it came out under the Paramount banner, and it is now, Time Warp's kind of a cool idea for a name. I don't know really how it fits in, but at the same time, yeah, it's probably the best part about this ride is getting on it. It's just so weird and unique with these weird trains that sort of like flip you up and suck you into the apparatus as you get in. That's unique. The rest of the experience, not so great. was pretty slow going through that last portion into the final brake run there. Ugh, the pain. Well, it is a unique experience, so enthusiasts will come here to try it because it is one of a kind, at least for the area, but at the same time, Time Warp is something else, something else. It wasn't terrible in the sense that it was too rough, but it's just, I'm one of the weird few among enthusiasts, or at least from the ones that I know, I'm a big fan of flying coasters. I love Tatsu. It's like one of my favorite coasters in the world, oddly enough. It's not my top 10, but I do love that ride. I do love Manta at SeaWorld, etc. The list goes on. I've been on more than a couple of them, and they're all B&Ms. This particular model, I did say in a different vlog that it's like looking at the insides of a dishwasher, and it feels like that going around. So if you want that experience, that's what you get with Time Warp. So we're moving on. We're hustling through rides. This park is just like completely empty, which is amazing. At least not for business, but it's the nature of the game. It's a weird day. Raptors playoff game. It's coming up in a couple hours, so I'm going to get a lot of re-rides in. I'll probably get all my vlog done, plus multiple rides on Yukon Striker, maybe a couple more on Leviathan as well, so it's going to be a good day. Not to digress, but Behemoth, the first ride to change this park from what it was, which was a rather traditional, conventional, middle-of-the-road MOR park. Behemoth changed that. And I've been trying to share my review on this coaster a couple of times already, but unfortunately, with me being a little bit new to vlogging, that I've had some technical issues over the last couple of visits. So this time I'm gonna get it right, but I do have a couple of maybe conflictive views about this coaster, which I'll share with you after my ride. Behemoth. Woo-hoo. Let's talk about Behemoth, baby. Let's talk about you and me. This coaster ain't that great as far as I'm concerned, but that's just me. Let's talk about Behemoth. Okay, yeah, that just happened. But yeah, I've been on a few of these B&M mega hyper coasters, whatever you want to call them. I do want to kind of check out and see how there it is. All right, so I have a new pose for my on-ride photos now. That those that I'm able to share, I will definitely share. Check out my Shanghai Disneyland vlog. Definitely a cool little on-ride camera moment on that one. But yeah, I just don't know. Like, it's a great coaster. Don't get me wrong, but the amount of hype that it gets. A lot of people think that Behemoth is the best ride in this park. I don't think that at all, obviously. It's just, okay, fine, yeah, you're getting a bit of ejector airtime. I did a front and a back row consecutively because there's nobody here. Wonderland seems to be really concerned about how many re-rides you get, so if you've done one circuit, they'll let you re-ride, no problem. But if you've done more than that, then they'll make you go around the queue again, which I think is fair, to be honest with you. You get a free bonus, and then you have to move on and let at least everybody else get their fair share. So Behemoth, yeah, great ejector airtime. A lot of people would say it's in the front of the train, but to be honest with you, being pulled over those hills, I'd say the best ejector airtime is in the back seat of the car. Overall, the layout is beautiful. It's gorgeous where it's situated next to the lake. It's probably the prettiest coaster as far as the experience going around it is. It's very similar to Diamondback. It doesn't have that splashdown, which is kind of weird considering that we have that lake feature just where the main lift hill comes out of the station, or the final airtime hill just before the mid-course brake run. It's a good coaster. It's really something that Wonderland needed at the time, without question. The first drop is only enjoyable in the back seat as far as I'm concerned. In the front, being the height that it is, it still does not pick up enough speed for me to enjoy that first hill. Only in the back do I really enjoy it. Still, it's a solid coaster. It's still in the top 3 officially in this park, but it's not like, I would not recommend anybody coming from anywhere in the world just to ride Behemoth. I just don't understand those that sort of rate it over Leviathan when it comes down to like even the airtime experience. Airtime experience in Leviathan, the front seat, is the best in this park without question, and probably like one of the best in the world. But that's going to be for Leviathan a little bit later. But now we're going to go on. I think that's it that I can really say about Behemoth. We're going to go to Backlot Stunt Coaster, which you kind of can't see too much behind me, but since the fast lane entrance is shorter, we're taking it as well. So yes, Backlot Stunt Coaster is coming up next. I do also have an opinion about this ride that I'll share after I'm done it. But yeah, here we go. Backlot Stunt Coaster. Opened when it was still a Paramount park, so it was the Italian job for 2 years. And then when Cedar Fair took over, roughly 10 years ago, it's 12 years ago now, then we got Backlot Stunt Coaster. And there's a big problem for that takeover that I'm going to point out after the ride. Backlot Stunt Coaster done. So what is my essential issue here? My issue is that you have 2 key effects. This is an experience coaster. Yeah, it's a launch coaster, but it's a small launch coaster. It's a clone. It kind of is dependent on its original experience. And there's 2 elements that are kind of key to the whole thing that aren't actually working. And I don't even know when they were actually, when they decided to just not put them together anymore, to not actually invest in keeping them functional. The first being the mid-course trim, which is in that area right behind me here, where a helicopter is supposed to rise, shoot bullets at you, and a bunch of oil canisters start exploding. And then you escape. Instead, all you do is just kind of stop for a second there, or slow down before you go into the dark portion of the ride. I do like the dark portion, because you don't really know where you're going. It's that dark, and it kind of throws you off when you first experience it. After you've done it a couple times, you know what's coming. Second thing is, one of the best parts was that you broke through that billboard behind me, and then there was a splashdown effect in this pool, which there's still water there, but they don't have the jets running, so I haven't seen that splashdown effect run. I don't think I've ever actually been on this ride when that effect worked, or even, I guess that's not true, because I definitely remember the helicopter working at one point, and the splashdown effect had to have been at least functional then. We're talking 10 years ago though, so I don't know about Cedar Fair, or whether or not they even care, in the sense that this ride may have a limited history or limited shelf life as far as their thinking, in the sense that they don't really want to have those effects running anymore. So it just, I don't know, it just leaves like an underwhelmed feeling when you get off of it. That being said, I do recognize again that for those people that are a little less picky than myself, being from an enthusiast perspective, that they're not really necessarily looking for that. The thrills that the ride provides itself are good enough. 2 years ago, I managed to get my girlfriend on this ride. She's not in these vlogs right now because she's not really keen on riding roller coasters, so at least not the bigger ones. But we did manage to get her on it, and she was actually terrified of this ride. And I hope you're not watching right now or hating me on actually bringing up this situation, but after the fact, it was like, okay, it wasn't that big of a deal. And it isn't that big of a deal. It's kind of, okay, yeah, I've been on Top Thrill Dragster numerous times. I've been on many launch coasters throughout the world, but it's just, it's fine for a family coaster, but it's definitely not in the top 5 best attractions in Wonderland. I would like them to actually, if they put a little work into those effects again, then it would be a cool, unique experience, but for what it is currently, I'm just not about it. So yeah, it is what it is. A couple of things I also noticed that I think I should mention is that having been to Cedar Point just this past October, and I've been numerous times, and this park is owned by the owners of Cedar Point, and it's a Cedar Fair park. You've got a lot of interesting situations in a demographic with the staff. You have half the staff that are, you know, very smiley and outgoing, and they recognize enthusiasts. They are very open and willing to talk about their rides. It's almost like they have a sense of pride with it, and they have it sort of like an encouragement for you to go through the ride, much like in Japan where you do all the stretches and clapping and everyone's like really full of energy. If you want to see that, you go to Fuji-Q Highland vlog that I've done, which really their crew are second to none. But also at Cedar Point, you get a lot of that too. They're very much animated and into the actual experience of the ride. Whew, out of breath there for a second. Wonderland. Half of the ride ops here have that weird, like, dead eye look. The dead eye look. Can I capture it? I don't know. I'm trying to get a good light because it's kind of like you do. But like just completely unengaged, not interested whatsoever. It's almost like I'm afraid to go on the ride because this person's in charge of my destiny for the next 2 minutes. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a bit picky. I just went past Yukon Striker a second ago and they said, there's nobody here. Like, there is nobody in the park right now, but whatever, you know, like some of us are having a great time because of that. So might as well enjoy it for what it is. Some of the bigger attractions here, I think that they staff with more enthusiastic staff members that are into the experience of roller coasters, and some of the other smaller rides, let's say, they just put like whoever on. So I don't know, like for example, that experience was felt on Time Warp. It was also experienced on Flight Deck. So I think, you know, I think there's a lot of people that are bored here sometimes, but it is what it is. Just a quick comment on that. It's just an observance that I have, having been to so many parks where the staff seem to be crazy animated, and that seems to be a mandate, whereas it doesn't seem like that's the situation here at Wonderland. Cedar Point, that definitely seemed like that was a mandate. So I don't know what to say about that, other than it might be reflective of our culture in this city, which I have a lot to say about anyway. But yeah, interesting thing to note. At a time that I was desperate for this park to add a major coaster addition, we got Silver Streak, and I was kind of underwhelmed that I didn't get a pass, and I kind of didn't come here for a lot of years after that because I was just disenchanted with the fact that I could go to other parks and get parks that are close by. Cedar Point's only 6 hours away, for example, and get my full complement of thrill rides. Now that being said, the first time I went on this ride, only a couple of years ago, I was surprised by how intense it actually is for a family coaster. It's a Vekoma family suspended coaster, but it packs a pretty solid punch. So yeah, Silver Streak is the next coaster. I'll give a little bit more of a thorough analysis of it after you see some off-ride POV. Okay, just came off of a front and a back of the train ride on Silver Streak behind me. I'm actually not going to be able to do any off-ride footage because I was the only person on that train both times. There's nobody here. There's 0 people here right now. Like, they're just basically manning the park for the sake of it. But there's a couple of rides going still. But my impressions of Silver Streak, it's gotten a bit rattly over the years from what I've noticed. Actually, I only rode it for the first time 2 years ago, but it seems significantly more rattly since then. Nothing wrong with the track profiling and everything. It's just the car itself. It's like that, it just feels like the bolts need to be tightened maybe on certain fixtures of the seats, or I don't know. It seemed to be doing a lot of that side to side motion versus like it being as smooth as you would expect. As far as the ride experience is concerned, the front, pretty tame. So that's definitely the family part of the ride. If you're taking your young one on that's never been on an inverted coaster before, do the front. But if you want a little bit more speed and excitement, do the back, because the back has the push as we all expect, but still, all in all, really thrill level is family level, so it is where it needs to be. It is a family coaster, but still a pretty decent addition for Wonderland at the time. I didn't think that because I just wanted thrills. But now, in hindsight, I understand why they actually invested in the ride. So yeah, we're just gonna wander through barren Kidsville here and make our way back to the coasters that I couldn't get onto when it was raining earlier in the day. All right, good old taxi jam. This is the most impossible credit at Wonderland because I need a kid to go on it. So I need to figure out how I'm gonna get a youngin' to this park with me. I might even abduct a kid from some parent at some point if the opportunity presents itself to get on this ride, because I will never get this credit, which is bothering me because I'm getting close to a milestone in my credits, and this would help me get there. But yeah, it is what it is. It's a kid's ride, and you know, some dude showing up on his own trying to ride a kid's coaster that is like an overall height of like 6 feet from what it looks like. You know, I'd be thinking the same thing too. So unfortunately, in this vlog, I'm not going to be able to knock off every single coaster in Wonderland. Urgh. But I will get you one day, Taxi Jam. I will get you. You better believe it. Ghoster Coaster. As I said earlier, before I didn't get on the ride, this is the first ride I ever did, or coaster that I ever did at Canada's Wonderland in its opening season. For those of you that know the math, you now could probably age me, because most people can't. Not that that's a boastful statement, it's just a matter of fact. But anyway, when I came in here the first time, this whole structure, I love the station. It literally has not changed since the day it opened. The color scheme is the same. This little house waiting area that I've always loved. It's very like kind of neat little queue line. It's been the same as well. So here we go. Ghoster Coaster. Walk on like everything else. One of the classic Wonderland Woodies, but a teeny one. Ghoster Coaster in the front, knee cracker. If you want to avoid knee cracking, put your feet right up on the edge, or your toes right up against the edge of the car in front of you, so it kind of naturally pushes your knees back. And yeah, I didn't really have any issues. Also, being in the front, I think that being in the back, you get that sort of rattling with your knees more if you're larger or you're an adult on the ride. But yeah, you know, Ghost Coaster, it is what it is. It is a great coaster for the family. Great coaster for kids to try out. There is no airtime really on it, even in the front. Like, there was barely any ejector. I don't think that that was always the case. I believe it was a little bit faster back in the day, or maybe that's just like my younger brain thinking that it was much more scarier than it actually is. But that being said, still a solid little coaster. I love the fact that Wonderland has 3 wooden coasters, because I do love them. And despite what people think about our complement of wooden coasters, there are very few parks that have that. So it's definitely one of our claim to fames, and really makes this park a really robust experience for anyone that's coming to it. So yeah, good coaster, coaster. Can't beat it for what it is. I have 8 coasters still to do in an hour and a half in an empty park, and I'm actually worried about whether or not I'm going to get it accomplished. So this is going to be a little bit faster now, because I need to hustle, get this thing done. Although, what is it, 6:30 right now. I started riding again around 5 o'clock, so I should be all right, but we'll see. But we're gonna loop around. We're gonna do the fly next, which I haven't done yet this year because it's been closed since I came the last 4 times that I've been to this park. But I'm gonna be able to do 3 coasters back to back very fast, which is the Fly, Thunder Run, and one of my favorite coasters of all time at Canada's Wonderland. So International Street, International Festival, which we're in now. We're gonna crack these all off. Then we're gonna go back, get Leviathan done, get Dragonfire done, and then go back on the other side. The Fly was another one of these underwhelming additions to Wonderland when it was announced and actually appeared. It's a wild mouse. It's a standard model. I'm not really too much into wild mouses overall. I find them pretty underwhelming experience-wise. Spinning wild mouses are a different story altogether, but that's not what this is. So yeah, we're gonna really quickly cover the Fly, because it's not a family located coaster, but it's a family coaster.
Welcome to the Fly. Please place all personal belongings into the storage bins on the platform. Canada's Wonderland cannot be held responsible for lost, stolen, or damaged articles.
Just finished up on the Fly there. Again, solo, because there's nobody here. In fact, I think the ops and the grounds crew and everybody here is kind of just anxious to get the day over so they can get home to watch the game tonight at 9 p.m., which they're all going to get home probably in time to do. Yeah, this is a custom wild mouse from what I know, because it's not a design that I'm familiar with that I've ridden on any other coaster or wild mouse. Especially considering how it's fit into the landscape and it has this big drop at the beginning of the ride. It's still, despite all that, I like the drop, but it's pretty underwhelming overall because it doesn't have the speed that, say, or the roughness that some of those wild mouses do. Like the one at Carowinds is just really rough and fast, and I enjoyed it a lot more. So. Again, we're getting all the family rides out of the way. For what it is, it's a decent ride. Would I re-ride it in the day? Probably not, unless, in fact, I'm gonna say never, because on a day like today when you could re-ride it 10 times in a row, I'm not inclined. If I'm with a youngin', I definitely would. So yeah, Fly, solid addition to complement overall Wonderland. Despite sounding somewhat irked about the amount of family coasters in this park, and there's a lot of... Wonderland has the best selection of flat rides, probably in the world, to be honest with you, but that's a digression. We do have a lot of good variety here, but one of my favorite family coasters, Thunder Run. 1986, they took this ride from the ground where the fly was and they put it in the mountain, which is fantastic. Now, the effects inside are not mind-blowing or anything like that. They do change them for Halloween Haunt, which I didn't get to see last year, which I'm hoping to do this year. But just overall, the way that they did, the fact that they put this ride where it is, I definitely am a big fan of the experience, because it's just a Mack powered train, but it's because of where it is, and it makes it one of the most unique in the world. That being said, one of the biggest things that I don't like about what they've done this year, or the past years, is they've taken away the heartbeat sound effect that used to play in the station, which kind of build up the experience for you, and you don't have that anymore.
Why is there such a loner? Choo choo, choo choo, choo choo bye. Choo choo, choo choo.
I'm like actually conflicted about Thunder Run. So like it's just like a weird niche, like tongue-in-cheek. Like I love this ride for what it was when it debuted. It seemed like I was obviously very young at the time, but you know, it just seemed like a very unique experience, and it still is. But I have a couple of quibbles. I already mentioned the fact that they don't have the heartbeat, that in the station that just like instilled fear in the smaller kids. They were like, oh, what's to come, what's to come? And that whole magic element is gone. They really need to bring that back. I know that they're maybe trying to make it less scary. I brought my sister on this ride many years ago when she was very small, and I was looked at and scorned by people because she wasn't afraid of the ride necessarily. She was afraid of the heartbeat, because it was just, it built that tension, and it's now completely gone. In addition to that, lighting effects inside the mountain. The diamond is not lit up. I know it lights up, guys, and you need to replace the bulb on that or figure it out, because, you know, I don't know, like, not to be nitpicky, but it seems like the effects and like those smaller details are just like being overlooked, or there may be other technical reasons why it's not been repaired. For example, behind me, as you can see here, that is new timber that they've put up. They've actually reinforced and built a new structure for Thunder Run into the mountain there. So it's staying. It's going to be here for quite a long time. So for them to spend the money on that and not fix some of the lighting effects, it's kind of weird to me. Also, the end of the ride, there's a tunnel effect with strip lighting, and none of that was on. So I don't know, not to be too nitpicky, but we are in mid-June now, so these things should be sorted out by now. Wonderland's a beautiful park. It's well maintained. It's one of the best run in the world as far as I'm concerned. And small details like that kind of need to be sorted. You have beautiful waterfall effect in front of one of the most like tame and useless rides ever created, which is this Mondial, whatever they call Magic Dream. I don't know, it's not even worth going on. I've done it twice and it takes forever to load. It's a digression, but you know, they could basically rip that out and just fix the light bulbs in Thunder Run and I'd be happier for it. So Thunder Run needs a little bit of work. Yeah, I'm kind of disappointed. Hopefully over the year, maybe some of those small changes will be corrected, but maybe they won't. And now, my next ride, Vortex. In 1991, Canada's Wonderland announced one of its most significant improvements to the park, and that was the coaster behind me, Vortex. Now, this was probably the first big announcement for this park that changed the game for me as far as like rides that I anticipated this ride obsessively so much. I still have original newscasts from when it opened on VHS. Like, it was that important. Many years later, I still stand and attest to this being one of the best aerodynamics roller coasters ever created. Yes, I'm putting it up there, comparable to things like Magnum XL 200. The fact that we just never had a coaster like this before. It was the first non-custom coaster, it was the first custom coaster that Wonderland had built outside of the Woodies, and it being built into the mountain, it was just shock and awe. I was like, what are they gonna do? What are they doing? What kind of coaster is this? Suspended. Never even heard of the design before. Like, this is the days before the internet, so like general knowledge of stuff like this wasn't available at the time. But yeah, it was revolutionary. I loved it, and I still love it today. It's still my top 5 best coasters in this park. It fluctuates. I just had a back seat ride on it, which was kind of rough, to be perfectly honest. A couple weeks back, I had numerous front seat rides on it and found it really smooth, and like shockingly smooth, to be honest with you. So it may be the car that I was on at the time was maybe the car that I was on today was a little less well maintained than the other car. One thing that I will give credit for to Wonderland today is that, although not that I don't give them credit for a lot of things, is the fact that despite the park being completely empty, there's definitely less than 1,000 people in the park right now. Maybe like 500 people in the park, to be honest with you. And the staff definitely look like they're kind of really over it. They really want to get to the game. They just want the shift to be over. I can't really blame them because, you know, Toronto being what it is, we're not really, much like the park, Canada's Wonderland being MOR for so many years, we basically never really had anything that let us stand out from other places, like at least in amusement parks and that. And the same goes for like our sporting teams. We've always been like mediocre, MOR, like we've never really had like any dynasties or championships other than the Blue Jays in 92-93, which of course now you'll probably be able to figure out I was there to enjoy. So you can definitely get the aura of people here kind of just being like, we kind of just want to get on with the day. So my criticisms about like the ride staff maybe just founded on the fact that it's really slow, and also the fact that there's a big exciting potential game coming up tonight, and this whole city might be partying at midnight. So yeah, it is what it is. I'm enjoying my day though, and I'm still going to get all these credits in one day, which I've never really done. So I'm very happy for that. And a lot of re-rides, a lot of walk-ons. You know, I'm an expletive, or you know the expression, but it's, or maybe you don't, I don't know. But I'm definitely happy. So we're going to move on, get back to where we were when the rains came, as I said, and get on the 2 back corner coasters here, Yukon Striker and Mindbuster. One ride that I'm not really featuring in this particular vlog is Yukon Striker, because I have a pretty extensive vlog about it that I've already posted, so check that out if you're interested to see my extended review of the ride. I just had a back right ride on the coaster. It's my 26th ride on it this year. Well, it could only be because it wasn't open last year, but yeah, the back right, I remember one of the ride-offs on the last time that I was on it, we were discussing what's the best seat. I said the front right, which I'm going to come back and I'm going to try to get it on the way back after doing my next coaster, which is right next door, which is Mindbuster. But I definitely get the idea that you get a lot more of a pullover off of that drop being in the back seat for sure. And the same goes for the second drop, which everyone says is underwhelming, but it's still like a 70-80 foot drop, so I don't know what people are talking about. It's the same height as Skyrider. It's still a decent drop. There's a lot of hard knocks that people are throwing at this ride, considering what it is. It's not their fault that these new vest restraints are so unforgiving. That's just the name of the game now. People want safety over thrills when it comes at an enthusiast level. You can kind of cheat that as well if you can. Try to lift your shoulders up. Similar to Skyrider back in the day where if you lifted your feet when they were checking your restraint, you kind of were floating off of the ground. Your feet weren't really touching the ground. So when you rode it, you were kind of just like flailing about, and I love that. But yeah, Mindbuster's next. Another thing I wanted to say about Yukon though is that zero-G wind over, that is the element that follows the initial or the first Immelman. It's probably the best element of the ride. Some people said it was like underwhelming, or at least in other vlogs that I've seen. I don't know what you're talking about really, because there's the amount of zero-Gs that you get on that are like, to be honest with you, the way you float, maybe, I'm losing my breath, very passionate about this, but that front right seat, if you're in that position on the ride and you do that zero-G wind over, it's just sensational. You have no idea where you're going, even out of the Immelman. It's just the way you float through the sky and your perspective on the ground and where you're going. You have no idea where you're going. You don't get that in any other part of the ride, but on that seat, you get it in oodle form. Can't really even say that right now. Those Yukon Striker Pilsners have had an effect. But anyway, here we are at Mindbuster. Almost done for the day. Gonna get them all. I've got 3 more coasters to do. So we'll wrap up after I've done this ride. Mindbuster was one of the most notorious and doted on rides at Wonderland. And the reason why that was because the original version of this ride, before Splashworks existed, featured 6 airtime hills and a great drop, a very powerful and quick helix, and at the time it was the tallest coaster in Canada when it debuted. Now, it is a pale shadow of its former self. It's really sad. I've lamented about this numerous times. Sorry, there's a little hair on the lens. I've lamented about the situation with this coaster many times. They took away one of the airtime hills, which was actually the best airtime hill on the ride leading into the turnaround. The drop out of that hill, it just seemed to last forever, and the ejector airtime that you got from it was just like second to none. It was the first time I was really conscious of how uncontrolled sometimes you feel while coming through an airtime hill. that experience is permanently lost because what they did was merge the second and third airtime hill into one continuous coasting hill that doesn't provide any airtime at all. In fact, I feel it like it slows the ride down somewhat, but it's just, if you've been on it in its original incarnation, it leaves a little bit of a tear in your eye thinking about how brilliant it used to be. And now it's the second best wood coaster in the park as far as I'm concerned. And a lot of people are mooting about the fact that the future of this ride may be limited because of the fact that it is not what it used to be. Okay, Mindbuster, I've moaned, I've gone on about the airtime hill that has been lost forever, and I'm still angry. At least on this ride, I've got a back seat, whatever, I don't know. It's kind of getting out of control here. There's just a weird haze in this park right now. It's definitely affecting me. But yeah, you know what? I'm ready for that ride to go. Like, that was pretty rough. It was way rougher than Wildebeest. I don't know what people's perception of roughness is, but there was two portions. The bottom of the turnaround after coming down that hill, just like, the lap bar just like ratcheted right into my chest because it was just so shaky. And the same happened again on the final airtime hill leading into the tunnel as well. It's just the rattle and the shake. Like, I've got my head, like, I definitely could do with some Tylenol now after that ride. I just don't know, like, it's fine. Like I said, I like the wood complements that we have here. If it was turned into an RMC like a lot of people think it's going to be, that's fine with me because it's just, that's the ride that if I'm gonna sacrifice a big ride at Wonderland, it's that because it's already been butchered. So we're gonna go back on the Yukon Striker one more time, and I got 3 more rides to cover here in the last 45 minutes of the day, which is no problem because one of them I've already been on anyway. Before I even planned to do this vlog, I had ridden it 2 times, and I'm gonna end with it because it's the best ride in this park. Front right seat, front right seat. The only spot to ride it is the front right seat. Yukon Striker. I'm gonna say it again. That is the best spot to ride the ride. Although the back right seat was also pretty quality, but yeah, the front right, man. That's the only way to go. It's just, I don't know. There's just, every time I've ridden that side, I've had the best experience. As a single rider, I will say, the very first ride that I had on it was in the front left, which is one of the more difficult seats for you to get if you're here on your own because the way the queue works, the first person in the line that gets fed into the station is in that position on the train, when generally you have to time it out or by magic have to be in that position on your own to get there. If you're a single rider on a busier day using a single rider line, you're never going to get that spot, so it's just by chance. But yeah, on a day like today, I could probably get it. I'm not really too fussed because I've had 2 rides. Leviathan's running so great that I'm going to go back and get that as my final ride of the day, which might be a bit of a giveaway from what I said earlier, but that's fine because it's general opinion anyway. But yeah, so here we go. Yukon Striker, still a solid ride. Again, not really going to go into it. You should check out the vlog that I've put on to find out what my real opinion overall of this ride is. It is pretty high, so yeah, check it out.
Welcome to Wonder Mountain's Guardian. For your safety, keep your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the car at all times. Please sit in a car.
Scary low light. Yes, we're almost at the end here. Wonder Mountain's Guardian. You can't see me or nor the station. It's not really helping me too much, but it's probably another family coaster. It's an interactive dark ride built into the mountain. I'm I'm not going to rate it as highly as Vortex when it comes to the interactivity of the mountain, or Thunder Under for that matter, because at the end of the day, it's not really like a great ride. Not to give anything away from my review after I ride. Just finished Wonder Mountain's Guardian, slayed it, 488,000 points, destroyed. That's the best part of Wonder Mountain right behind me though. Still to this day, the best centerpiece in any amusement park or theme park in the world. Better than Disneyland's castle, yes, I said it. Especially with all the interactivity, including things like Wonder Mountain's Guardian that's in the mountain itself. Best centerpiece in the world. Look at it, it's just beautiful. It's amazing. And not only that, but you turn around and you look, and then you got Leviathan at the other end. Like, really, it's an enthusiast wonderland. No pun intended. But that being said, Wonder Mountain's Guardian, no music being played in the entire ride. What is that? What is that about? Sound effects, tame and just like understated, really bass heavy and muffled. I really don't like that ride. I really don't like. For a later addition, a recent addition into the park, especially the fact that to put that into Wonder Mountain, they had to destroy certain aspects of it, like the original pathways to lead up to the viewing platforms. Admittedly, you weren't going to get that back, or at least there was no plan to return that, because structurally the mountain wasn't safe enough for it to be an experience that you could have. I'm lucky enough to have experienced it back in the day. It was fantastic. Way better than Wonder Mountain's Guardian, way more thrilling. Yeah, so no music. What's that about? I don't understand. Also, the last time I was on it, one of the screens was locked in that Windows error lock screen, and no one seemed to have noticed or cared. It's just like a very underwhelming attraction. Not only that, but the fact that we have such a weird, humid day going on here today, and it started raining as we got onto the ride. By the time that we got to the interactive portion of it, you couldn't see through your damn glasses. So the first screen, it was just like you were looking through like opaque glass and you couldn't actually see what was going on. That, despite the fact, if I had been able to see during that initial portion, I might have gotten 500,000 points on the ride. But anyway, all right, so we're back in Medieval Fair. Whew, I'm talking really fast, aren't I? Those Yukon Striker Pilsners really have some punch to them. So we're off. This place, there's nobody here. Raptors game, that's why. But one thing I'm very happy about, that's finally returned, because I pointed it out in my first vlog of the year here, as they were making changes to Wonderland as far as Medieval Fair is concerned. My baby dragon. I love him. But yeah, he's back to his original form, known as Dragonfire, with a Y. That's the way it's supposed to be. Dragonfire, the Legend Aero Coaster, is coming up next. This is really the first coaster that I feared at this park. Looking at it from the perspective that you get from here, which really isn't the same considering that Leviathan completely dwarfs it nowadays. But at the time, this overgrowth and looking at that first hill, it was very intimidating. You didn't know what was to come. Although you did see the coaster from the parking lot, it just looked so high. That weird perspective that you got through the trees there, and you just don't even know, you can't even see the lift hill. I can see it. Somewhere in the trees there is that lift hill. It's kind of rough nowadays. I was just at Marineland and did Dragon Mountain yesterday and was surprised by how smooth it was. I rode it 10 times. There's not many arrows that I could ride 10 times in a day, but that ride I had no problem. This one, I did it twice the other day, or a couple weeks back, and that was my max out point. And I'm pretty sure that will always be the case. bit of footage from a previous visit. Despite the fact that on that train I had a train all to myself in the front row. This is just like one of the most unique experiences I've had at Wonderland. I am alone in this park now, basically. There's nobody here, so I'm going to try to get 2 more rides in Leviathan before they shut her down for the day. And I'm ending the day with, as I said, the best ride in the park. Despite Yukon Striker being here, it still is Leviathan as #1 in my books. Why is that? I don't know what's happened, but something has been tweaked on Leviathan to make it run at a rate that I've never experienced before in previous years. Just recently now, obviously I've discovered, well, not obviously, maybe for you, but I've discovered from riding B&M Gigas, because I've been on Fury 325, that riding in the front seat of these rides is the best thing you can get. And now there's a beautiful shot of Leviathan's front entrance here. Walk on, which is amazing. It's not the first time I've experienced like an end of day opportunity to ride this ride a bunch of times in a row. The first time I was ever here, I actually rode the ride 5 times consecutively, much to the chagrin of my poor girlfriend, who was standing just down there and had no idea that I had just basically decided to keep riding it until we were done. Because there's nobody in this queue line right now, I'm probably going to get that same opportunity, so we'll see. Here comes Leviathan. Coaster of the day, the most iconic coaster at Wonderland, Leviathan. What can I say? When I started riding it at the beginning of the year, I still had the same opinion of it, that it was a solid coaster, but it just lacked a little bit something. And obviously we were all irked about the fact that the length of the course is shorter than we would like. But that being said, I think I missed my final opportunity for a re-ride, but I just had 2 consecutive rides in the front, and I had 1 in the back. So that's 5 overall for the day. I'm good with that. This park is empty. Everybody's gonna go watch the game now. So yeah, we're gonna go and change and shift gears. I'm actually gonna get to the game a bit late. I'm not going to San Francisco or Oakland, but I'm gonna be seeing it probably midway through the 2nd quarter. But that's completely not the point right now. It's a wrap of my day. I managed to get all the credits here covered, except for that one taxi jam, which one day I will get. But yeah, Leviathan, I think that I have to do it justice by giving it its own personal review in another video, which I will do very, very soon. But to be honest with you, it is the best ride in the park. Whatever they've done to tweak it this year, it's just riding elegantly. I love it. It's that front seat ride. It's definitely in the top 10 coasters that I've ridden in the world. And yeah, what can you say? We're very, very fortunate to have it. The original B&M Giga prototype. Yes, it doesn't have some of those unique elements that, say, Shambhala has, and also Fury 325. But that being said, it's the prototype. So, you know, I know Shambhala is not a Giga, by the way. But it's just, I don't know, just the 2 airtime hills plus that high-speed airtime hill with the curve in it, that alone is enough. But then you have those fantastic high-speed turns, which are second to none. The barbecue turn, as a fellow enthusiast has called it, because it goes over the picnic area, is also, it's kind of tame. You kind of lose the speed going into that final turn. So if it was replaced with a helix or whatever like Fury has, I don't think it really would have added much to that element of the ride, but great first drop, obviously, and yeah, like, it's the best ride in the park. What can I say? Unfortunately, Yukon, it has to catch up slightly. I don't think it ever obviously will, because of just the nature of the design of that ride, It's not built for intensity like Leviathan is. So, sorry, gapped out there because it is the end of the day, and I'm out of breath. I was originally planning to just shoot a vlog today on how to get to Wonderland on public transit, which I have done, but now I've also got this other vlog reviewing every coaster in the park, other than Taxi Jam. So we'll get to that at one point, I'm sure I will. But it's been a sensational day. One tip I will give you, because I kind of planned this day deliberately, knowing that it was going to rain, but it was only going to rain in the first portion of the day. It wasn't going to rain in the second portion, so like around 2:30, the showers cleared up, so by the time I got to the park, we were good to go. Obviously, we had a bit of a delay. If I didn't have that 1 hour delay, I would have had a ridiculous amount of re-rides on all the rides here, because, you know, I got 2 rides on Behemoth, 5 rides on Leviathan, 2 rides on Yukon Striker, which could have been more, and obviously a ride on every single other coaster as well. A couple re-rides on some of them. So, and a flat ride or 2 like Scooby's Boo Blasters. So, yeah, it's been a very sensational day here at Wonderland, I would say. So I'm going to wrap it up. Good day. Hope you enjoyed all my reviews, or my brief reviews, on the coaster complement that Wonderland has to offer. And as I said, I will have more to offer as far as the details of what I think about Leviathan overall, Behemoth overall, and some of the bigger attractions as well. Wrapping it up here from Wonderland. Gonna get my butt out of here because no one else is here. I noticed that in the parking lot, as I'll show you on the way out, there was literally, I think, 20 to 30 cars in the parking lot. I've never seen anything like it. I'm kind of overwhelmed by the access. I wish kind of that I had more time to enjoy it, but there's a wrap from Wonderland. Great time. It was 5 hours, but only 4 hours of riding coasters, but wow, I got everything done. So enjoy your time at Wonderland, because guess what? It's one of the best parks that you can get in the world, really, just for a full complement of a coaster count / coastering experience, or a family experience, as I've pointed out as well. Yeah, I gotta wrap this up. I gotta get out of here and watch some basketball. Have a good day, guys, and we'll see you soon.